Welcome everyone. Just saying it again for the purpose of those that are watching this recording. This is Digital Responsibility. Thank you for being with us, and I'll pass it very quickly to Hugo, who will let us know how to deal with the interpretation in case someone needs that, and then we'll go from there. Go ahead, Hugo. Welcome.
Thank you, Mari. Good evening to all of you. I'm going to give instructions first in Spanish and then in English for the Spanish speakers. And good evening. Función de interpretación. Para activar la función de interpretación, si está usando una computadora, verá un icono en forma de globo en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla que dice interpretación. Haga clic ahí y seleccione español, como lo ve en la pantalla. Si está usando la aplicación de Zoom en un iPad o teléfono o tablet, busque el menú de 3 puntos que dice More o Más en la parte superior o posiblemente inferior derecha de su pantalla, dependiendo de su teléfono. Haga clic en Interpretación de idiomas, elija español, haga clic ahí y, muy importante, una vez que haya hecho estos pasos, haga clic en Done, que puede decir Done, Accept o Finalizar o Finalizado.
Gracias, Hugo. Very quick. Oh, sí.
Okay, really
Estás
quick.
cortando, pero...
If you're on a PC or on a laptop, look for the icon. Okay. If you're on a PC or a laptop, look for the globe icon on the bottom right that says Interpretation and select English. If you are on a Zoom application on iPad or tablet, locate the 3-dot menu on the top right, click on Language Interpretation, and then select English. And then, and this is very important, click on Done or Accept. So having said that, can you enable me as a second interpreter, please?
He wants to go to interpretation.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Hugo. And I hope everyone is already in their language, preferred language. We're going to continue and begin by introducing ourselves, the AHA staff, the people that are here and holding this space for you all. So my name is Mari, or Mariangelica. People call me Mari. It's a very long name. I've been with AHA for the past kind of 9 years on and off in different capacities, mostly as staff. And I'm also a coach, positive psychology coach. I'm a mother, so I'm learning all of this with you all. I have 2 little ones, one 6-year-old, one 9-year-old. And I'm super happy to be doing this with you all. I'll pass it to Sabrina.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us on this rainy evening. My name is Sabrina Geshay. I'm the clinical director at AHA, part of the larger clinical team. And I am godmother to 7 children, and I have a 2.5-year-old myself. So, and I am constantly learning from this child and definitely very passionate about the topic that we are speaking on tonight as I'm raising this small human. So, and I will pass it over to Melissa.
Thank you, Sabrina. Yes, I am Melissa Lowenstein. I am AHA's Director of Training and Adult Programming, and also the Content Director. I help decide what goes into our curricula. So this topic was really, really fulfilling one to investigate. And I had help putting this together from my team here, but we have a lot of information to cover, so put on your seatbelts. I think we can advance out of this slide. You all know already that this is where you are, our parent workshop on digital responsibility, and I'm going to hand it back to Mari.
Actually to Sabrina, I would say.
It's Sabrina's turn to speak now. Yes.
Well, I just want to say quickly a little bit about AHA for those of you who are not familiar with AHA. We are as you can see on your screen, we are an educational nonprofit organization that has brought social, emotional learning and community building to over 60,000 students, educators, and families in Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, and Goleta since 1999. It was inspired after the Columbine school shooting back in 1999 to provide a space for teens to feel safe and create community. So as you can also see, AHA is all about equipping teens, educators, and parents with social and emotional intelligence to dismantle apathy, prevent despair, and interrupt hate-based behavior. That is our goal and intention. By cultivating empathic leadership, AHA transforms schools, families, and communities into welcoming, nourishing, expressive, and inclusive places where youth and adults work together for the highest good. That is our key goal, and we so love the work that we do. So I'm going to pass it back to Melissa for some mindfulness.
Yes. This is a hallmark of the work that we do, that we try to be mindful just in our everyday lives about everything that we do, but sometimes we all just need to pause and take a breath and feel our bodies. And that's what we're going to do now. So I'll invite you to put your feet on the floor, sit up a little bit straighter, maybe sit on the sitting bones at the bottom of your pelvis and stack your spine up nice and tall. And maybe close your eyes if you feel okay about closing your eyes. And if not, you can just gently unfocus your gaze and look downward. And just open your chest and let a breath come in. Take a nice big breath. And release it out. That might be the first conscious breath you've taken today. It might have been my first one today.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take another one. Breathing in nice and slow and feeling how filling your body with breath changes its shape, changes the way it feels. Big breath in and breathe through your nose if you can. And then letting the breath out nice and slow. So it's not even as much about taking a deep breath as it is about taking a slow one. And being aware of how the breath feels in your body. Let's just do that one more time. Big breath in. And release it out. And then let your breath just go back to its normal rhythm. And if you are where you can hear the rain, maybe take a moment to listen to the rain. Tune your ears to what's happening outside. Maybe it's not raining where you are. Maybe there's some other sounds that you can tune into that are close up or far away. Just take one more breath here. And maybe hold the breath at the very tippy top of it for a little bit longer than you really want to. Just hold the breath in, see what it feels like. And then you can release the breath out through your mouth. And then go ahead and come back. If your eyes are closed, you can blink them open. Just keep this sense of peace in mind, hopefully, that this brought to you as we talk about a very challenging subject, which is the impact of devices and social media on children. This is a really scary topic to talk about. And a foundation of a lot of the things that we're going to advise you to do is to find a place of calm where you can really think about how to respond to what's happening with your child. So that little piece of mindfulness hopefully gave you a taste of what you might be able to do if you find yourself overwhelmed and you need a little moment to calm down. All you have to do is pause and take a few breaths and let yourself be in your body. So I'm going to pass it back over to Madi, and we're going to start talking about the topic of the night.
Yes. So first we're going to do the big picture, reality check. What's happening? What's real? And then we're going to move from there to more positive and hopeful stuff, but right now we have to make that a reality check. So the evidence is clear that overuse of smart and devices on social media is big. It's over 3 hours a day. The impact of that is it reduces cognitive abilities, creates constant distraction. Most teens check their phone 150 times a day, every 6 minutes, 7 hours a day. Makes concentrating on schoolwork difficult, exposes youth to content that can be disturbing, reduces self-esteem, and promotes bullying and cruel behavior. Dramatically increases risk of depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and self-harming behaviors. Creates loops of behavior where young people suffer from the issues and use their devices to self-soothe, making the problem even worse. Terrible cycle. Slows down the development of social emotional intelligence, social skills, and healthy risk-taking that set children up for their adult lives. It substitutes for healthy behaviors like socializing, sports, outdoor activities, group participation, and healthy boredom. Actually, a getaway to creativity. It makes children more likely to be nearsighted. Is as important an issue for many adults as it is for children. So, digital devices manipulate brain chemicals like dopamine in ways that mimic addiction. They are designed by top engineers and psychologists based on research into motivation and reward cycles. Cravings for dopamine drives them back over and over again. It reduces other good brain chemicals like oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, and Bill Gates all severely limit their children's access to devices. They know this stuff. School districts in 41 states, plus the District of Columbia, have sued Meta, saying the company has harmed children's mental health. Facebook and Instagram. Probably you've heard this all in the late news. And devices, sadly, are here to stay. So now what? What do we do? Please notice right now your body, how are you feeling? This is overwhelming. I feel completely overwhelmed. I have children. This is scary. It's horrible. But it's true. And this is our reality. We need to protect our children against these dangers. And this might be one of the most important places to get and stay intimately involved in our children's lives. Children's brains are not well developed, connected enough for them to resist the addictive pull of these devices without our help. So tonight, we will lay out some comprehensive tips, hopefully, for doing this. By the way, our information comes from many sources, but primarily from a national conference presentation by Don Grant, PhD, National Advisor for Healthy Device Management, and American Psychological Association Chair on Device Management and Intelligence. So with this, I'm going to pass it to Sabrina.
Yes, thank you, Mari. I'm so glad we did that meditation first, because boy, then when when we heard that list of the impact, I noticed my heart racing a little again. And as Mari said, and Melissa said, this is a topic that can be very overwhelming. And I worked with a lot of parents and families who feel very hopeless and powerless at times in terms of how to deal with this issue with their children. And so I'm so glad we're having this conversation tonight. And that the good news is there are some things you can do proactively. So I want to talk a bit about parental controls and filtering software. Thank God those exist, and people have created that as these technologies have developed, because otherwise it would be a wild train leaving the station. And it is that way a little bit anyway. Well, the research has shown, most importantly, that for young children, it's wise to delay tech introduction for as long as humanly possible. And I know that's hard because, kids nowadays seem to come out of the womb knowing how to swipe and do things with devices that is just mind-blowing to me. But it's recommended that until they can regulate and feel a range of emotions and have reasonably good social skills, are able to meet their own basic health and wellness needs like adequate sleep, hydration, and eating healthy food, and are able to manage their time fairly well. That's a big ask, and I'm sure we all know plenty of teenagers who do not have that skill dialed in all the way yet, particularly with time management. And that, again, is why it can present a real challenge in how they monitor themselves, and they really do need our support. One idea, which I think is great, is consider a smartwatch instead of a phone for a younger child. I'm starting to see more people doing that, which is fantastic. We're going back to the flip phone that has just very simple features. Things that you can move up to things like TrueMe and Pinwheel, Bark or Gab type first phones as the next option, other than a smartwatch. And there's even a newer edition that I was super excited to learn about called the Light Phone. We have there's a link we can provide you to how to research that, but you just go to www.thelightphone.com. And it's super cool. It has an electronic paper display with no blue light. It only does calls, texts, music, a calendar, and a hotspot. That's it. So really basic. And there are a lot of adults that are really starting to do that as well, because let's face it, adults have become as addicted to their devices as their kids are most often. So ways that we can kind of get back to the basics with our phones. Once a child has device access, definitely set up software for filters or restricting access to different websites and information. Fortunately, many parental controls are already built into Apple and Android devices, and they can do so many different things. Parent controls and filters can be used to limit your child's time online. For example, 1 hour on an app for app use per day. Think of things like TikTok and Instagram. That 1 hour would be significantly less than what a lot of teens are spending on those sites. And the type and content viewed. Those apps can also identify dangerous or risky behaviors or situations like bullying or self-harm behaviors, and can track your child's online activity, which is super important for you to be aware of. Bark, you see on the screen, Bark is a top-rated parental control app. I've been looking at it myself just to see what all it can do, and let me tell you, it's a lot. And they boast having the most coverage of any monitoring tool. So I intend to test them out and see if that feels accurate, but that is what I am told. And also feel free to get help and support from your cellular or cable provider if needed. Worst case scenario, folks, you can always, flip the internet off. You have that power as parents in your house to turn off the internet actually when they're at home. So that's something to remember. We have, as we said earlier, Leo, who's our associate executive, or what's your title, Leo? I'm not the assistant executive director, and just wears so many hats at AHA, but she also has a teenager, and we wanted to invite her to share a little bit about how this is going with her son, and any guidance around this parental controls piece that we're sharing about, or just anything relevant at this point.
Yes, I have a short thing to share. My kids just turned 14. We decided to give him a cell phone when he entered junior high. Upon him entering junior high, I had a conversation with him about what it would take to have a phone and what are the rules at home around it. And he was very excited to receive a phone that he agreed to everything I gave him at the time. And I was very honest with him that I will be monitoring and putting limitations and how long he can stay on the phone, and just on the phone itself, and also on certain applications. We talked about the applications that he was allowed to download. I want to be also transparent that I do not own an iPhone, and neither does my child. We both have Androids. So I had learned how to utilize those services. So Androids have, or Google has, an application called Family Link that allows me to do everything remotely through my phone. So I rarely have to go through my son's phone unless I tell him that I will check his messages through there. He's aware of this. He knows this. He doesn't like it. But he is clear that if he wants to keep his phone, he has to abide by my rules. And he has made jokes with my nieces when they say, "Hey, can I use your phone?" He goes, "Go ahead, but you won't be able to be on it long. My mom doesn't allow it." So he, like, you can tell that he's resentful, but he knows that that's what it is. He has approached me and says, "Mom, can you please give me more time for this?" He's talking about Snapchat because it's the only social media app that I have allowed him to have. And we had a long conversation, and he was upset that I did not increase his screen time for that. And then it's just an ongoing conversation because, yes, he agreed, but doesn't mean that he continues to be okay with it. He does come up to me and tells me, can we change the rules? And I haven't been to yet. So it's working, and I'm still learning too. I'm scared because I know there's things that can still come through, even through all the monitoring and all the conversations that I have with him. But I would say that I feel like I have a good relationship with him. So therefore, he does approach me, and I do go to him ever sporadically to see how things are going and all of those things to make sure that he feels safe and hasn't experienced anything that will make him feel uncomfortable. So that's just a small thing that is ongoing because he's only 14. So we'll see how it goes.
Thank you, Leo. It is a learning. We're all learning. Yes, and Mari has something to add.
No, very quickly, I noticed there's a message in the chat. Someone saying in Spanish that it's can't hear well, and I was wondering if that's still happening or if we can do something.
That the interpretation might not be,
Yes.
yeah, because their connection is not very good.
So I'm gonna say this in Spanish. Very quickly. Virginia, si no escuchas bien, ¿podrías por favor mandarnos otro mensaje para poder saber cómo ayudarte? I was just asking her if she's not listening well to let us know again.
Yeah, so we can put somebody who has a better connection in there to interpret. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, can you keep an eye on that, Mari? While we do
Yes.
the next thing? Thank you. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is the thing that I used to think was the absolute most important thing. I'm going to confess a little bit. My children are 20 and 23. And 5 to 10 years ago, it wasn't like it is now in terms of the dangers of being online. And I was able to rely on that relationship with them. They still saw some things they shouldn't have seen. But what I've come to realize is that the danger then was less than the danger now. So now I'm really thinking this is an important part of it. As Leo mentioned, having a good relationship with her son means he talks to her when he sees something on the internet that harms him. So that's why we keep talking about it. But the other pieces that we're talking about here are just as important. So maintaining positive and connected parent-child relationship around their digital lives means learning what they're up to online, trying out the apps and games that they play with and use, and investigating the sites that they're using, asking them to teach you how they work and play and engage with them around that content and around those sites. Children are relational learners, and they do as we inspire them to do through our example and through collaborative problem solving. So keeping this in mind and really trying to have a sense of humor about all of this. It's hard to, it's all very scary, but the more we can be light and fun with them about this in relationship and have a sense of exploration and curiosity, the more open they're going to be to our influencing what they're doing. Something to do as a family, and if possible, to include your children in, is creating digital use agreements for the whole family. Enlisting in the whole family in this process means everyone feels empowered. It doesn't mean everybody's going to get what they want, obviously, but at least their voices are heard, and you have a chance to explain why something isn't going to work. So this can include creating tech-free areas in your home, tech-free times to be together, very important. Scheduling purposeful tech use around your life activities. Thinking proactively about replacement behaviors. So if there's something really wonderful happening, maybe they won't need to be on the phone. So parents already have so much on their plate, and okay, now we have to make a carnival for our children every minute so they don't have to be on their phones. No, that's not what we're saying. But to really think proactively ahead of time, what things do we do instead of being on devices? Keep devices out of bedrooms at night, off and charging. Hold screen time until after homework and family time are done. Not that it's a reward for doing those things, but it's just less important. And we hold it as a lower priority than doing these things that really need to be done, like homework and spending time connecting with family. One way to handle the mornings is to only give devices to children after they have gotten dressed and ready, and they're ready to head out the door and they've had a healthy breakfast. So things like this, where we delay the tech use and make sure that self-care is happening, are a few things we can think about when we make these digital use agreements. Be a role model. I don't know about you, but I have my moments, especially now that my kids are grown up. I'm on Instagram at 3 a.m. once in a while. That's not the kind of role model I want to be. So I strive to set an example through my own device use and be transparent about your own struggles with this. That's the other piece. It's hard for us too. Role model putting screens away, role model looking away from screens and making eye contact, model prioritizing real life connection, and demonstrating sustained attention. This is the thing that's really going out the window for all of us. The ability to attend to something for a period of time, it's harder and harder the more time we spend on those fast-moving, glowing screens. Proposing non-digital activities for the family, and then co-using tech when possible. So tech time doesn't need to be alone time. There's this thing where everybody goes to their rooms and they all do their own thing on the screens. Try doing it all together. That's why earbuds exist. Okay? So trying to weave some togetherness in to that tech time. And this one is huge. I don't know about you, but pictures like this totally make me sad. Especially young children, but also teenagers, children of every age. They make what we call bids for connection from adults in their world. And what that can look like is they want to talk to you, or they just want your attention. They need to connect with you for some very good reason. And it's so easy for us to let devices get in the way of that. So really be aware, be sensitive and attuned to your child's need for connection, and always make that more important than looking at your device. That's one way to set a really good example. And with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Mari.
Thank you. Yes. Now, talking with our children about digital device use. Starting with 4 W's and 1 H. Why are you? I love these questions because it includes us, right? So as Melissa is saying, it's not only about them, it's about us, starting with us, modeling it first from us. And us also answering these questions, even in front of them, with them. Why are you, they engaging? Why are you, they doing? What are you and they doing in the device? Where are you and they using the devices? And who are you and they connecting with? How is this impacting you and them? Talk about how what they are seeing online makes them feel or makes us feel. I have the experience when I'm on Instagram, and I'm trying to become more aware of this, of unfollowing people that it just doesn't feel good in my body when I see stuff from them. So really attuning myself with what's my body response, even with what I'm watching or observing, and unfollowing or following, and being verbal or, modeling that too, because it happens to us too. Watching heavily filtered influencers, the impact that has in the perception of reality of the other, of how we might need to look like. Can use desire for new devices, like Leo was telling us. So the excitement of having a new device is a great moment to talk about all these things and bring this up with them, having these conversations. Discuss your family values and make clear that these are also expected, promoted during online engagement. Talk with teens and children about the importance of authentic online impression creation, curation, maintenance, and management. I love this phrase, be your real self online. That also starts with us. I am a performing arts teacher as well, and I was doing an exercise with kids, and they were all imitating their mothers, taking pictures of everything. It was so funny. And one of them said, "Look, my mom is taking a picture of the trash can," because they see us posting all these things, taking the pictures, doing all these things, maybe putting on the filters and stuff. So it starts from us to also showing up in a real way in those platforms. Use the results of this conversation to create clear community ground rules about device use. Make clear the consequences for breaking those agreements. Create consequences that make sense in light of the infraction. Like realistic things, you're not going to see your phone in a year. That's not realistic. So enforce these limits consistently and without drama. I have to work on this one a lot myself, because I'm a Latina, melodramatic, dramatic. So, trying to keep it, calm. Oops, you're on your phone past your time limit. Our rule is that you lose access the next day if you go over. So maybe make a mental plan to do something else during this time tomorrow, right? Not, oh my God, you can imagine just by listening how I could react as well. Anyhow, family meal times, no devices, talk and check in. Like something we do in AHA constantly is a check-in of thorn and roses. Thorns, things that are not going so well, and roses, what is good in our lives in the past, present, or future. Question rounds, lots of great meaningful questions and games. There's so much available right now. One called Table Topics, available in Spanish. We Are Not Really Strangers. It's another one. The Daily Question Conversation card set. In Our Feelings cards. And actually, AHA, we have it. I use it all the time with my clients. The AHA set of meaningful questions. We have them in both English and Spanish. If you want to know more of this, you can email Melissa. The email is melissa@ahasb.org if you want to know more about this. Talk with your child about cyberbullying. What to do, what not to do. So don't retaliate. Write a nasty post in response to whatever's happening there. Do not respond in that energetic, engaged mode, to call it somehow differently. Try not to take rude comments personally. Adopt a 60-second rule. Respond rather than reacting. Do not reread offending comments. Take a screenshot for proof if something's really not good. Block and report the cyberbullying. Tell a trusted friend or an adult about it. Take a digital detox break. Hopefully frequently, right? Like breaks. Protect your mental health and circle your trusted allies. those are some ideas. There are many others that you can think of, but these are interesting ones. And I'll pass it now to Sabrina.
Great. Thank you, Mari. Leo flagged me that there's a good question in the chat, and I just wanted to reassure that we will be having a question and answer portion at the end of this talk. So I don't know if we want to try to answer that right now or just wait until the end, but I just wanted to reassure the person who posted the question that we will be answering questions at the end of this presentation. So hang in there a little bit longer. So yes, meltdowns and power struggles. Oh, do I hear about a bunch of these in my work with families? This is a topic parents tell me is what they argue about the most with their kids right now. At least that's what I keep hearing. And it is something that we need to do our best to navigate. And as has already been said, partially what Mari was saying and Melissa, is really if you can remain calm, that is so powerful, and not react when these infractions occur, when our kids don't listen and break the rules about the agreements that we have around devices. So as a parent, your best to remain calm, consistent, and credible. And I say credible because if you're not being consistent, if you're not enforcing the agreements consistently, you will lose credibility, and your teen or child will learn they can manipulate and find ways to get more time or not quite follow the direction or the agreements as you had made with them. And repair and renegotiate if you do lose control. If you get really upset with your child, this is a wonderful opportunity to model that you can make it right again by just saying, you know, hey, I really lost it just now because I was really frustrated, and you know, I'm sorry, that's not what I want to do with you, and let's revisit what we agreed to, and I really need you to follow the agreements, or there will be consequences. So if you can be as non-reactive as possible when kids push back or break tech agreements, which they most certainly will, it is their job to do that. I have a toddler. She is developmentally appropriate to be doing that, and teens absolutely will do it again, and that is also developmentally appropriate to see if you really mean it. And remember that children are less resourced to resist the addictive pull towards devices than we are, and adults struggle with it ourselves. So they have less resources, and so they really need us to support them around that. And it's important that we come from a place of empathy, because it really is true. This is their social world, and that's everything for tweens and teens, being able to connect with their friends and be part of what's happening online. So I mean, again, my daughter's only 2.5, and I can already see that pull to see the things on my phone, to look at the pictures, to see videos. It starts so young now, and it's very real for them. So it's intriguing. And anyway, just something to be aware of. So first and foremost, you have to manage yourself first. Don't intervene or, you know, get into power struggles when you're flooded in particular. And by flooded, I mean you're totally overwhelmed and you're losing it. How do you know if you're flooded? Check your body clues. Your body's usually telling you when you're flooded or overwhelmed. If you just pause and notice for a moment, is your heart beating fast? Do you feel hot or cold in your face or hands? Do you have an urge to yell or hit something? These would all be good clues that if any of those are true, it's time to take a break and calm yourself down first, which is also really good modeling for your kids, by the way, because we all get there sometimes. And if they can see how you manage yourself, that's such a good learning moment for them as well. We did do a whole piece like this on emotion management, and there is a link there for you, or we will certainly provide you the link to where to go if you'd like to listen to that webinar and learn more about that piece. But especially if you notice that your child is also flooded, like you may be saying, game over, you got to get off your device, and they might get super angry and frustrated, and you can see it on them. What does frustration look like on your child? I bet you know all the clues and all the cues. And the truth is, both of you need to calm down before having a conversation. about what's happening and what should come next, because otherwise nobody's going to be you won't be hearing each other, and it probably won't get through. So don't expect to be able to reason with a teen who's emotionally flooded. When we're flooded, our prefrontal cortex is offline, so thinking and consequences are not happening at that moment. So it really is imperative to calm down first. I also want to say a piece, because I know a lot of parents who've really struggled with this, that they feel sort of held hostage by their teen because of threats. That if you take away my phone, I'm going to kill myself, or I'm going to do some sort of self-harm behavior. And that is incredibly frightening for parents to hear. I don't ever take those kinds of things lightly, but I would encourage you to not just back off and then let them do whatever they want to do with their devices, but really take the next steps. There are many resources available to assist with that if you have a concern about depression or self-harm behavior, or threat of harm to others. There's Safety, who are just wonderful. You can see on the slide, they're available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. The number is provided there for you. There's also Santa Barbara County Behavioral Wellness Crisis Line, the California Youth Crisis Line. And if it's a true emergency, like they're really losing it, you can always call 911. It's never a reason for people to become violent or to threaten or harm. I have certainly had some parents I've worked with who felt very scared in those moments at times, or felt like, their child was trying to hit them. And, we definitely want to take those situations very seriously. So when emotions are not high, a good thing to do is strategize about emotion management and ways to de-escalate, regulate, and recalibrate before a meltdown happens. If you know that this is likely to produce a meltdown, it's so helpful if you had a conversation when both people were calm and come to some agreements about here's what's going to happen if. So seek out and have on deck strategies to keep yourself calm when power struggles occur. Talk about emotions and needs, acknowledge and reflect, but really stick to your ground rules. Like, for example, I can see you really want to check your phone right now. I know it's so hard not to be able to be in touch with your friends when you're feeling stressed out. I get it. And our rule is that you have to finish your homework before you can have your phone in the evening. And that's just how it is. If you struggle with managing your emotions often, you may also need and want to work on your self-care, because maybe you need to up your self-care and make sure you're getting the appropriate support for yourself so that you can be as calm and present as possible to navigate these kinds of situations and conversations. And definitely praise any movement towards emotion regulation and self-management on the part of your child. When you see them doing that and taking the no, even though they're frustrated, even if it means praising not flipping out, or worse, just make sure to do that, because you're really trying to reinforce that positive behavior in them. And nothing works better than positive reinforcement. And lastly, moderate your expectations. This is a work in progress for all of us. No one knows how to do this personally, and different kids have different temperaments. And we have to, sometimes we have to try different things with different kids. But going back to the agreements, the more clear you can be about your expectations, the better this will go. If you've been loose about your expectations, it's going to be a little harder. So the more clear you can get about what you want to be true in your family, the better. And I'm going to pass it back to Melissa to talk about gaming.
Gaming, yes. Thank you, Sabrina. Yes, you own the technology. So remember this, when you get requests for new devices, games, and equipment, these are opportunities for you to renegotiate, or maybe negotiate for the first time, terms of use. So always remember that, because there's new gaming devices coming out all the time, and they're all very amazing. And just anytime you decide you're going to go ahead and purchase one of these for your child or your children, remember, this is the time to set up the rules and be really clear about those rules, because these games, if you have a child who really loves gaming, my stepson was one of those young people, and it's scary how long they can stay on that thing if you just let them. So with gaming in particular, it's important to set up those guidelines clearly. A few ways you can do that: keep the devices out of their bedrooms. Don't let children game in their rooms. Use a visible timer that the child can see, and establish firm and clear time limits. Establish and be consistent with reasonable use rules and strategies. And this is actually one that kind of surprised me when I heard it, but then makes a lot of sense the more I think about it. Don't use extra game or online time as a bribe or a barter tool. It's often used for that, I think, and just technology in general, because children seem to want it more than they want anything else. And it sets up a connection, I think, with their reward system that is already so strong. So we want to kind of not associate more time with being rewarded for anything else. And just in general, establish specific routines, time schedules, and rules for video game play. Oops, I went backwards instead of forwards. There we go. A few more notes on gaming. Yes. So when it's time for them to get off of the console or out of to leave the game, if you have a child who games, they can't just leave in the middle. If they're playing with a group, that makes them a bad person in the eyes of their teammates and so on. So offer a 10-minute warning, only one. And this is another place that power struggles can happen. Like, mom finds herself in there trying to wrestle the thing away from the child. If they don't comply with the agreed upon rules, don't get into a power struggle, consequence the event on another day. For example, kid goes over 10 minutes, guess what? His console is not there the next day. So keeping that in mind, that if you're in a power struggle and tempers are escalating, it's probably not going to serve the long-term goal of helping your child be more digitally healthy. And it also will not promote your own mental health very much. Choose age-appropriate games, obviously. Know what games your kids are playing. Talk with your child before and after gaming. How is their behavior different before and after they play? How do they feel? How does gaming affect the way that they behave in the time after they've finished? And ask with curiosity. You may want to hear a certain answer. And kids know that when you're setting them up for a specific answer that you want to hear, really try to come at it with curiosity and listen without judgment, and let them draw their own conclusions if you can. And then establish a fun transition activity post-gaming if you can. A meal that they love, or a family game time, or something like that makes it not feel so abrupt and bad to them to leave that activity that they love so much. And then we're going to move back over to Madi. We're going to talk about setting a good example. There's a lot more on this. Go ahead, Madi.
Yes, we've talked already about some of them, but and not some of more. Stop checking your device in the car, and certainly, of course, not while driving, biking, walking, or crossing streets. Resist checking your device while engaged in other activities, anything. Cooking, or I don't know, reading, any other activity. Keep your phone across. Actually, can I give an example on that one? To resist checking your phone. When I brush my teeth, I have an immediate association of grabbing my phone and checking it out. So I'm gonna actually work on that one tonight. Resist. Keep your phone across the room, or in a different room, or in a different space when not using it. Turn off all notification, unsubscribe from block, and delete time suck and addictive apps. Choose a clear, realistic, and healthy endpoint for each random surfing session, and set timers. So again, it starts with us. So we have to be an example of this for sure. Sabrina.
Oh, yes, indeed. I love this one, and I am still working on it. I'm doing better, though, I'm happy to report. Don't check your device while in lines or waiting areas. Use that opportunity to talk to real people who are right in front of you instead. Whoa, right? Mind blown. I know, totally. Believe it or not, recent studies show that people who do this are happier after the experience. And actually, it's a fun ritual now. I bring my daughter with me grocery shopping. She loves it. It's kind of one of her favorite things. And I always talk to people in line or the checker, and she now knows the names of the checkers. And it's sort of a fun thing that we say hi to them every time we roll through the checkout line at the grocery store. So it really is true. It's sweet. It always leaves like a feel good experience after. So I highly recommend it. Know the name of your supermarket checkers. Also, create a framework for your day with end buffers. Don't make your device the first thing you reach for in the morning and the last thing at night. How many of us do that? And a lot of us do it because we use it as our alarm clock too, which, going back to the old-fashioned alarm clock, not a bad idea. Stow your device after posting something on social media. It's so compelling to want to immediately check and see who liked it, who responded. But again, something to be aware of. And stop repeating the cycle of checking things. We're such checkers now. Engage with email, social media, banking, text, or other apps, platforms once. Prioritize what absolutely needs to be addressed and then store the device away. If you put it away, you won't be as compelled to look at it again. And Melissa, I think you got another one for us.
I know and there's a lot of this. This isn't the first time we've talked about setting a good example in this webinar. And boy, it is really important because our children do as we do, not as we say, right? Don't leave your device by your bed at night. If you resist doing that, you have a stronger argument for having the same rule for the kids. And if it's hard for us to resist picking up the phone and looking at it at midnight, imagine how hard it is for them. When you're with other people, turn off your device and stow it away, or turn off the ringer and stow it away. Continually commit to remaining present when you're with other people. Don't place your device on the table when eating, meeting, or greeting. So how often do we go to a restaurant and everybody's phone is on the table? So we can actually start making a change with that just in our own lives, in our own circles. Let's not put them on the table. Let's put them away in our bags. And just generally model the change you want to see in your children, your partner, your friends, yourself, and the Digiverse. That was the name that speaker Don Grant used. He calls it the Digiverse. I thought that was funny and cute. And also recognize that this is a work in progress and don't expect perfect adherence from yourself or your child. This is just a struggle that we are all facing. Who would have known it 50 years ago that this is what we would be wrestling with? And here we are. Finally, really try not to overreact when established device agreements are broken. Expect it. Expect it to happen over and over again. Expect yourself to break them and expect your children to break them. And for all of you, think consequences, not punishment. Because we're all working on this. And the more we can do it as a team, all facing in the same direction rather than battling against each other, the better it will go. And even if we have a really hard time and we fail miserably, we'll still do it together instead of in battle with each other, which I think is a much better way to struggle. Yes. So we are going to talk a little bit about some other offerings, but we're doing so well on time that we can actually take a little bit of time and do questions. So I see that I think maybe the first question from Virginia was about the translation. Is that true, Leo?
Yes, but that was handled. If you open the Q&A section, there is a question waiting from Alfred.
Okay.
I answered the previous two already.
Oh, thank you. Oh, wow. Nice. Oh, Alfred has lots of questions. That's wonderful. Alfred, we are going to answer your question now. How do you handle asking them to show their game, which they love dearly, and follow up with preventing them, restricting them from playing, and then feeling betrayed? Oh, that's a good question. I kind of want to lob that one to Sabrina. I'm sure you've had this situation in your therapy practice.
Therapy practice, yes, but that I was going to say, I thought you had that probably happen with your stepson, so you may have more.
I may
helpful
have more
insight
too.
than you.
Yes, but why don't you go ahead first, and then I'll chime in if I have more.
So I want to make sure I understand the question. So it was when that you ask them to show you their gaming, and then afterwards you restrict their gaming because of what
Right.
you
Like
saw
they
them.
show
Is that
you, this
right?
is what I'm doing, and then you place restrictions on them.
Yes.
And how do you handle that betrayal that
And then they feel betrayed. So this again, and boy, so many parents have found themselves in that situation. And I think explaining why the restriction is in place is so important, so that they understand what your thinking is and what it is, why you're restricting in any way the way that they're gaming or doing what they're doing. If there's safety risks, if there's, be as specific as you can be about that, because it's important for them to understand. Again, this is also a thing too where, we're learning about it as we go. And if you explain, like, I didn't realize this was happening and I'm not comfortable with that because of whatever the reasons, then just being very transparent about why that is. And if they feel betrayed, well, that's going to happen sometimes. Like, you're making me show you this thing and now I get less of it. But again, you own the device. You are the one in charge, and it's your job to keep your child safe and to protect their brains against some of the impact of some of these things. And so if nothing else, hopefully you can feel empowered by that. And the more you can outline those things at the beginning, the better. If you know them, if you know what your parameters are and why you would then create what types of things would create a restriction, then you can tell them that when they first get the game or the device. So that helps if you already have some concrete things, and then you're fully justified if you take it away if those agreements have been broken. But I hear you on if it's something you didn't know and then you find out and now you're creating a restriction. But just be as transparent as you can be as to why. Yeah. What would that's my best answer. What have you got, Melissa? You've been through this.
Yes,
I'm sure.
it's a very good answer. I think what I would add is that if you haven't had these conversations with your children, and then you start having them now because you know it's going to help protect them, that's part of the conversation. Like in the past, I've just kind of let you have a lot of freedom using these devices, playing this game, and I'm learning more about how that might be affecting you. And so I'm going to actually start being more restrictive, and you're going to get used to it. And I'm sorry if it feels hard at first. Yeah, just dialing it back requires a conversation about mom and dad are learning, or guardians, parents, adults at home are learning more and more about this. And so things are going to change now, and be ready.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that question, because that's 100% true.
Okay. Let me read the next. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I think Mari can take this next one.
Yes, so I'm going to read it in out loud in English, and then Mari can answer it as well. The question is, how can I help my 11-year-old child with their berrinches? That would be
like meltdown.
yeah, meltdown, acting out at his age or their age.
Sabrina or Melissa? I mean, it says meltdowns, and it doesn't. I assume it's regarding or related to the digital use, right? When we take that away from them. So, do you guys want
us to chime in first?
Sure, I'm happy to too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how about I start?
You start. Yeah, you start.
Okay. Yes, and meltdown at any age is difficult. And I think the thing to remember is that they will calm down eventually. It will happen. They're not going to be in meltdown mode forever, even though it can feel like that when you're the parent. So keeping that in mind, watching them, the more you actively try to calm down a child who's having a meltdown, you may actually just put fuel on the fire. You want to make sure that they feel seen by you. Yes, I see that you are really upset. You're having some really big emotions right now. You're having such big feelings. Oh my gosh. And then watch for them to start to de-escalate, even if it's just them taking a breath. They do have to breathe while they're having a meltdown, right?
Yeah.
So watch for that, and then jump in there and appreciate them for starting to calm themselves down. Don't try to solve any problems aside from the one of the meltdown, like that their emotions are big, they're out of control of their body. That's the thing to address. And if you can do it in a really caring way, it's easy to get upset, especially if you weren't allowed to have a meltdown when you were little.
Right.
It can be very upsetting when your child has one, if you think it's not okay at that level of wasn't okay for me. But if you can just hold them in it, they will come down, and then you encourage them and give them all the credit for calming themselves down. That's the best way that I've found for a meltdown of a person of any age, whether they be 2, 11, or as in the case of my partner, 63.
It's great. And
Yeah.
the only thing I would add to that is that gem of just stay calm. You know, the more grounded and calm you can be, as Melissa said, they will calm down. It can sometimes feel like it takes much longer than we would like, but that mirroring and reflecting of like, yeah, I can see you're really upset right now, you know? And I mean, even my 2-year-old right now can go, I'm mad or I sad. And I love it. And I praised her for it. I said, thank you for so much for telling me. I can see that you're really upset right now. You know, let's just take a minute and, you know, she eventually does calm down. So it really is true. But staying calm is key. If I get activated too, then it just kind of ramps the thing up. So.
Do you have any?
Can I add something very quickly?
Yeah.
Because I think this goes back again with modeling. Of course, Melissa, you touched on it by, saying that probably it's harder for those of us who weren't able or to have these meltdowns, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the modeling, right? The how to ourselves are also not only noticing and being aware of what are our body clues or, sensations, feelings that are coming up for us when we see this happening. How are we tolerating these moments in our own selves, right? So noticing ourselves and also calming ourselves down is a good modeling as well. Not only naming it for them, mirroring back for them, but also ourselves just modeling self-soothing, self-awareness, self-control.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right. So hopefully, Alfred, that feels like a good answer for that question. And then we had the other question was from Jennifer. And then there was another one that came in. But Alfred, I wanted to go back to something that you asked that Leo answered. So I know, yes, you can turn off the internet at your house, but there's still cellular data.
Oh, that's true. Yes, that is.
Yeah, so I think maybe that's what Alfred was asking about.
That makes sense.
If they can access cellular data, then they can still be on the internet. So you may also need to turn off your cell phone data.
Yeah.
And there are, for different providers, there are ways you can actually set it up like family controls where you can go in and turn that off if you need to for the child. So thank you for that question. And then we had, 2 more. Okay, I'm looking at the time.
3 more.
3 more. Oh my goodness. Vicky wants to know, is there a training on how to navigate parental controls on the iPad and Apple Watch? I would say there probably are many. There's probably on YouTube, you can probably look it up. You can probably go to your Apple website and find out about having somebody help you walk you through it. I know for me, I need somebody to walk me through it.
Me too.
I'm not going to learn it from watching a video. So it depends on how you best learn. Your school may have access to resources about how to navigate parental controls as well. And then I'm going to just hop to Andrea's question, and then we'll go back and Leo will help us with Melchor's question, which is posted in Spanish.
I can help you too, yeah.
Okay, can you see I wasn't sure if you could see the Q&A. You can see the Q&A?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just got my 12-year-old daughter her first cell phone, installed Family Link and put time limits, but it still seems like too much. Is there a website or YouTube channel with age-appropriate ideas on different types of limits? There are so many possibilities. I feel lost and sort of paralyzed. Yes, Andrea, I feel you, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Andrea or Andrea. I think, yeah, this is the place where we step out of our scope of practice to give too many details about these kinds of controls. I think that you should trust your intuition about how much is too much for your child. If you feel like the limits that you've put on there are inadequate, then you go ahead and add. You're not going to limit her too much. And I think there is, in some instances, children do actually end up feeling harmed if they have too little access because it cuts them out of their social network. So there is that balance to consider. But I'm going to have to refer you out. Hopefully you'll be able to find other resources to get a specific answer to this question. It sounds like you're already doing a lot of amazing work to try to protect your family. So good for you. I'm going to put it out to the others to see if you have anything.
No, go ahead, Mari.
No, I agree. Go ahead.
I appreciate the question as well. I mean, I would love, like, what's appropriate for each developmental age and stage. And it does change. And the one thing we do know is, like, the longer you can wait to get them on any devices, the better, which is not an easy thing in and of itself. But, I forget what we had said, like the average is how many hours a day? I mean, I recently watched
7 hours.
It's a lot of time. 7 hours a day. Like, that's a lot. That's a whole work day.
Full-time job.
Friends. Like, that's a whole entire work day almost. So clearly that is way too much. But I know families that have played with like 30-minute segments at a time. Like, you get 30 minutes and that's it. Rules like you don't get your devices or any gaming until after you finish your homework. So, I mean, just building in what makes sense in your family. And I know I will certainly myself continue to look for the type of information that you're asking for. I don't have that aware right now. And what's also true, which was named in the documentary that I watched, is that, there's so much we don't know yet about how much is in. There's a lot we know, and there's still a lot that we don't know yet in terms of long-term impact. So we are still learning, but I appreciate the question and hope that we can find more information about that in terms of actual timeframes.
I can answer in terms of how I decided for my son.
Perfect. Yes.
The way that I decided how much time to allow him in certain apps was like, how much am I willing to give him total in a day that is outside of school, of course. So then I just divided by what I know are his favorite apps. And then it's just like, okay, you like on YouTube, you like Snapchat, you like this baseball gaming app. So it's just like, okay, and then I need to allow time for him to use his phone or whatever it may be, or like Google certain things, because I know he searches Google to find sports stats and all, because he's a very sporty kid. So then I just divided like what it could make sense. And then I change it depending if he's using something way too much, and so he's always going over, then I have a conversation with him and I may decrease it so that he can reduce his time. And he doesn't like that, but I do that.
Okay, I want to make sure we get to Melchor's question. We are at 7:15. And what I'm hoping, Leo, that you could do now is just put the link to the survey in the chat. We have a very brief survey that we really, 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 really want you to fill out. And what's cool is that if you fill out that survey, you actually have participated in an AHA offering that gives you access to 6 free sessions of therapy with a therapist on our staff. And I know this sounds like I'm selling a car or something, but that's how we know that you were here. If you submit the survey, then we can recognize you when you come back and you say, hey, I'm interested in 6 free sessions for myself. As a parent, we can support parents, we support educators. So Leo's going to put that in there, and please open it up so that you can submit it. If you're still wanting to pay attention, you can submit it after we log off. Thank you. Okay, Mari, what about Melchor's question? Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry. He asks, how can he take away the device once he has given it? So I think in a way we touched on this answered before. You, especially Melissa, were speaking about being transparent about, saying and expressing, I know before you had access to this and it was no problem. However, I am learning more and more about this and what can be the impact of this stuff in your life. So from now on, I'm gonna make this decision of not letting you, or, limit this in this or that way. So I can feel, comfortable with how we are using our devices. So being the transparency piece, I think, responds to his question. Although you probably, I don't know if you want to add something, Melissa or Sabrina.
I think that's exactly right. And I think telling your child, it's my job to keep you safe. And I don't think that your use right now is safe. And so I'm going to protect you. Yeah. Yeah, that was a good answer, Mari. I think that does it. What about you, Sabrina? You want to add anything more before we finish up?
I just wanted to, because, we hear about these instances when people are in a literal physical tug of war with a device, like, give it to me, and you're trying to yank this thing out of the child's hands. And there are times, if it's really heated, it's better to walk away, and then they just simply lose the device for the next day. Like, you don't necessarily have to battle it in that moment, but it's gone for the next day. Like, you take it after the fact if need be. Like, I don't want you to put yourself in harm's way if you've got a teen who is really willing to wrestle you for the gaming device. Like, if you need to, you can simply, stay calm and walk away and say, like, you're going to follow up with the consequences. You didn't respect the limit today. You're going to lose that privilege for a day or whatever your agreed upon time is. That's the only thing I would add to that.
Okay, we have to close. I want to direct everybody's attention back to the slide, just knowing there's going to be some more. We mentioned relationship repair earlier. Sabrina brought that up, and we actually have a whole group on that, a whole workshop. That's our next one in March. And then a few more: resilient parenting, difficult conversations, and promoting agency. And then just keeping in mind that we have spring and summer teen groups. Our spring groups, some of them are still enrolling, some still have openings. We started this week. The contact for that is Paulina at ahasb.org if you're interested in a program for your teen who's in the Santa Barbara area. And then I mentioned the clinical sessions that are available to all AHA teens, parents, and guardians, and also to educators. And my contact, Melissa at ahasb.org, is the one for more information on that. And with that, friends, I hope that you have a chance to get to that survey. It really does help us to know how you liked what we offered and what you would like to be different. And we're going to say goodnight and thank you so much for being with us. And a recording of this will go up in our YouTube channel. If you want to revisit any of these pieces, you'll be able to as soon as we get that up there. So good night from me. What about my co-leads?
Thank you for being here. Have a great night.
I appreciate you being here and taking the time. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.